One of the first games that kids tend to learn when they're young is rock, paper, scissors. Most of us have played before to get the front seat in a car, or the first pick for your team at recess, maybe the last slice of pizza at some point. In theory, the game is truly random, with 33% odds each of winning, losing, or a tie. If computers played it for eternity, that's how it would end up, with no means of gaining the upper hand. With people, however, we often fall into patterns and habits, whether we're aware of them or not. It's possible for opponents to pick up on these patterns and exploit them to their advantage. If we have a tell, or we always throw rock after a paper, other players can take that information and get a read on us. It's a similar principle to high-level poker, where the entire game is about reads and bluffs, and players have no control over the cards that they're given. The game is less about the cards and more about posturing and knowing when to strike. Players have hidden information that opponents don't have access to. In this case, it's the cards in their own hand, and they can try to leverage this hidden information to great success. In fighting games, however, the hidden information is what you're going to do next. There are no cards in your hand or surprises that you can bring out against an experienced player. To my knowledge, no major tournament has been decided because a player used a super that their opponent didn't know existed. The surprises in fighting games come from reads and making unexpected decisions in the moment. Fast reflexes and the ability to input moves will only get you so far. Players need to pick up on the habits of their opponents, and these are what are called reads. Some decisions are just too split-second to try to react to, so instead of reacting, players predict their opponent's decisions and try to compensate for them. One of the most classic examples of this is what's called okizeme, which roughly translates from Japanese to get up, attack. This refers to the knockdown state in many fighting games where the player must stand up to continue fighting. The one that got knocked down is usually given several options that they have to pick from. They can stand up and block low, stand up and immediately grab or block a grab, or wake up with a move that comes out immediately after a knockdown, like a shoryuken or a super move. Every one of these options has their uses and can be used to great effect. But the aggressor has options to deal with each one of these in a rock, paper, scissors style situation as well. Because they have the timing advantage, most wake-up options take a few frames to come out, they can begin an attack that will land immediately on the target if they press a button while doing so. This is commonly referred to as a meaty attack. They have the option to go for low attacks or overheads to force the opponent to make a guess on blocking. If they go for a grab, that will beat a block. And if the aggressor blocks, that will beat a risky wake-up attack like a shoryuken. The aggressor is in control and setting the pace in this situation, but the defender has options that they can pick from quickly. Some of these decisions can be reacted to, but more often than not, these are simply reads. If your opponent always wakes up with a shoryuken, block it and then punish. In Super Smash Bros., if they always try to recover at a certain angle off the edge, jump out and edge guard. If someone is going for the same block string over and over again, and you find a hole in it, exploit that and punish them every time they try for that same string. Where this gets tricky is knowing your own habits and trying to get your opponent to buy into them, only to counter it with something different. For example, the first time that you get knocked down in a corner, you may go for a wake-up reverse throw to put them on the back foot. The next time you're in the same position, a smart opponent may expect a grab and try to punish the attempt with a meaty attack from outside of grab range. The next level of this prediction is for you to instead go for something like a wake-up shoryuken, or even just a block followed by a punish to get out of the corner. Some of the biggest mind games is just trying to read if your opponent is even picking up on and reacting to your decision making. This is where we get into optimal versus suboptimal decisions. In the last episode, we talked about positions of strength and positions of weakness. Some characters are more dangerous at specific distances than others, and that still remains true. The problem is, if you get too predictable in how you get into that desired distance to get into that desired position, your opponent can read your habits and catch on to that pattern. For example, in Mortal Kombat, if your Scorpion keeps going for a teleport every time that you're full screen from your opponent, that Raiden is going to catch on and really make you regret being so predictable. What this forces you to do if you want to win is to change your strategy. While Scorpion's teleport is still one of his better options for getting in close to an opponent, its usefulness nosedives when an opponent is simply expecting it each time. Its relative strength in this particular fight becomes much lower than simply walking up or playing a more mid-range footsie-based game. Just because Scorpion is a rushdown character does not mean that he has to close the distance at all times in every game. If your habits and patterns are as easy to read as Dr. Seuss, it doesn't matter how good your actual execution is on your combos. Another really clear example of this that covers its whole cast of characters is Killer Instinct. The game's combo system is unlike any other in the genre. When doing a combo, the player can choose between light, medium, and heavy attacks in different orders as it's going on, with heavies doing the most damage and lights doing the least. You might be thinking to yourself, well, why do lights or mediums if heavies do the most damage? The answer is that the player getting comboed can attempt to break the combo by predicting light, medium, or heavy. If they choose correctly in the right moment, the combo gets broken and the attacker gets thrown off. If they guess wrong, however, then they get locked out of acting for a few seconds, and the attacker can really go ham with what they're doing, with no risk of getting the combo broken. This guessing game incentivizes players to go for what would normally be suboptimal combos in order to keep the opponent on their heels. If they simply attempt the same string over and over and over again, they'll get punished heavily by knowledgeable players that are looking for that. In my experience, lots of players talk about trying to read opponents and exploit their patterns of behavior. But people don't really talk about knowing their own habits and patterns nearly as much. Next time you get a chance, go back and watch some replays of your games from the perspective of your opponent. If you were in their shoes, what do you recognize with your own game plan that seems exploitable? What patterns do you pick up on that you know can be punished? When playing, be confident in your own unpredictability. To end this video with another Sun Tzu quote, "It is said that if you know your enemies and know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. If you do not know your enemies, but do know yourself, you will win one and lose one. If you do not know your enemies nor yourself, you will be imperiled in every single battle." So go out there and know what your patterns are and learn how to pick up on everyone else's. Have a great day, everyone!